Welcome back, students, as we're diving into week 2 of our At the Movie series with me and my friends Grace and Colin. And today we're diving into the movie genre of action movies. So we're excited to continue our conversations. So join us as we dive in to week number 2. Let's go. All right, welcome back, y'all.
Thanks.
How are we feeling?
I'm feeling really great.
Good. All right. So we switched out the M&Ms. I'm sorry, Colin. They were really good last week. They were really good. But we have actually moved to the this is like the premium
I was gonna say
level.
iconic movie snack.
Yeah, like this is like if you're going to the movies, you need your popcorn there too. So we have those. And fun fact, this side is normal. The other side's dairy free. Correct?
Thank you.
Yeah. You got it, Grace. So I'm actually now curious too. I didn't actually try this earlier. So this is a regular one. I'm gonna actually try to take.
I'm pretty sure it's just plain and white cheddar.
Let's see.
The plain's better.
I can't tell the difference at all.
They're flavored the exact same. Do they taste
Well,
the
I don't.
same?
I would try them. I don't like. I can't. I couldn't tell you if one had dairy or not had dairy in it. I also don't know how dairy would come through in popcorn.
This one, that one, the other side tastes better, so you know it's dairy.
Oh, there you go.
You could taste the cheese a little bit
Which one? In that one?
in this side.
Oh, on this
The
side?
dairy
I'll
side.
try that again. Maybe I just didn't get a good one. I don't know, man. I'm not. My taste buds just might not be up to par yet for today. I'm not chasing. I'm not tasting any. Was it like cheddar or is it like
I think it's white cheddar.
white cheddar? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I do feel like they do taste pretty similar though, but that side tastes
Yeah.
slightly better.
Oh, that's
So
all right.
yeah.
Well, we'll be munching on that. Maybe I'll try to find some more of the cheddar ones here then in a minute. But yeah, so we're continuing our At the Movie series today, y'all. We are diving into action movies today, which I'm excited about. So kind of like last week, asked you guys what your favorite animated movie of all time was. Do you guys have a favorite action movie? Do you watch action movies?
I don't watch action movies.
No, not a single one.
I don't either.
So personally,
Guys,
but
help me
if
out
I
here.
had to watch one, I would say my favorite is Barbie Princess Charm School.
That
Really
I am going
action-packed
to.
movie. It's an iconic movie. Everybody should watch Barbie Princess Charm School. I've watched it so many times. Very action packed. The plot twist is there. There's a villain.
Plot twist.
It's a big plot twist.
Okay, that we can go with that just for the sake of the
I'm
plot
trying to
twist, but
think of,
there's
like-
no way
I'm
on
trying to think
earth.
of like any I've watched. Like
Have you ever seen like a Marvel movie? What?
I've seen one
first-
Marvel movie.
Okay.
the first Marvel movie
Yeah.
I watched was Spider-Man 3, I guess, and that was at our campus.
You watching Spider-Man Far From Wait. So our
Whatever
At the
the-
Movies special last year was the first time you've ever watched a Marvel movie in your life.
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so wait, what was your only Marvel movie you've ever seen then?
I saw Black Widow
Oh, I did see that.
Yeah.
Oh,
at
wow.
Wildfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
guys,
We watched it in between.
there is a
camps.
world of like just in Marvel that you guys should
But
explore.
have you seen Barbie Princess Charm School?
There is, I cannot see a world, Grace, and I appreciate your opinion about it so much, but I cannot see a world in which I would just like on my own free will watch Barbie Princess Charm School. Thank you. Sorry,
It's
I
a
made
great
sure.
movie, and it's not that long.
Okay.
My friend and I, because she lives in the same neighborhood as me, I used to go over to her house all the time and watch it.
Okay.
Like multiple times. We were like 16 when this was like a thing.
How is this an action movie?
Yeah, that's what I'm still trying to
There's
figure out.
fighting.
Between who? Barbie and
Barbie and
friend?
I think it's
The other
evil
Barbies.
stepmother.
Huh?
I think it's like the evil stepmother.
Does
or
an evil?
Oh.
Is that just Cinderella then?
No.
No.
It's Barbie Princess Charm
Barbie Princess
School.
Charm School. Okay.
Okay.
It's different. It's different. We'll give them that. We'll give you that. But you did. I can't believe I'm about to make this turn. You did say that there were like plot twists in it, though, right? Okay. So one of the things that is characteristic in action movies, whether we're going to agree that Barbie Princess is or isn't, is the fact that there are like really, really high moments in those movies where like the characters are doing awesome, things are going great for them. But then we also know there's like very low moments where like it's like those plot twist moments where like everything just kind of like, goes haywire and, everything kind of just falls apart wherever they're working towards. I think of like Mission Impossible movies or even like, some of the Star Wars movies. I'm trying to think what other, some of Christopher Nolan's action movies. I'm a big Christopher Nolan guy. If you guys ever, you probably, I don't know if you have that. If you're not, haven't seen Marvel movies, here's what you should do. I'll watch, if you guys go watch like Inception. I will watch Barbie Princess. There we go. So let me know.
Yay.
Text me when you guys do that then, and we'll do that. But just like in those movies, we also experience like really awesome moments in our lives where it feels like everything is going, super awesome and well. But we also experience times in our lives where, man, it doesn't really feel like that. Actually, there's a lot going on that's wrong. Can y'all think back to a season in y'all's life where that was like present, right? So like whether it was like, hey, like this is a really, really awesome moment in my life, or like, hey, there was like a lot of really cool things that were all going on. Things were going really well. Or maybe then at times like, hey, like, this season of my life just really sucked because of, everything going on then too. So any of those seasons come out stand out to you guys then?
I think for me, it was middle school. So I was like doing really well, I was like doing a ton of stuff, as middle schoolers do. Like it's middle school's good when you're in middle school and then you don't realize but anyway. And everything was going really well, and then my dad got diagnosed with cancer, which is really tough, but I actually didn't know at first, so my parents tried to keep it low-key, like on the secret from my sister and I, because like I was at the time 11 or 12, and I think she was 10 at the time. So like and we found out like in the worst possible way. Like we were like out to dinner and one of my family friends came up to my dad. He's like, "Oh, so how's your cancer doing? Like, are you doing better?" And my sister and I were like, "What?" So we found out that way. It was a really fun car ride on the way back. But like just like the shift of like now I always was a people pleaser, but now it like overtook my life because I didn't want to tell any of my friends because I didn't want to be associated as the girl whose dad has cancer. I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. So like struggling with that, but also I didn't want to open up to anybody about it. So like it was these weird two conflicting things that I wanted to tell people to get better, but I didn't want to tell because I didn't want them to feel bad for me. So that was like an incredibly difficult time.
Sure. Is there one that felt really awesome that you can think off the top of your head, or like, I mean, and if you, we're going to get into a whole bunch of other stuff then too, but was there one that like totally stand out? It's like, oh, this has been like a really awesome season.
Oh, and awesome. Was I supposed to say awesome? And I said awful.
Oh, no. You could do either.
Oh,
You're totally fine. You're great, Grace.
Cool. Great. Wonderful. I was like, oh, that could be really awkward. You're like, an amazing. I was like, yeah, so my dad got cancer.
No. That's okay. Yeah, that's definitely a bad season. But yeah.
An amazing season, I would say, was my senior year. I love my senior year. I was in school for like...
You're still kind of at the tail end of it.
I was going to say, I'm at the tail end of it. Yeah. But it was amazing. Like, I made a ton of friends. I did everything that I wanted to do, like in high school was too scared to do. But yeah, like that was my favorite time. And I also like did a ton of other like cool opportunities outside of. And there's also like a lot of like personal, like internal growth. In that time.
Yeah, totally. Colin?
I think a really good season in my life, and it kind of involves that plot twist you were talking about. Was my 8th grade year. I had like a lot of my good friends in my classes, and we all had classes together, and I met a lot of new friends, and we had like this big group that we all hung out together and stuff. But then that was also the year that COVID hit.
Oh yeah.
So we lost like 3 months of that year.
Yikes,
and so that was really bad because like, we went from seeing each other every day and having a great time in all of our classes to like not seeing each other and not doing anything. And then like just from then on, like I just kind of got really shy and like, cause you go from seeing everybody and then like not seeing anybody. And the next year, my freshman year, we did like this hybrid thing where half people would go some days and half the people in our school would go the other days. And so then it felt like I had nobody because a lot of my friends were at the beginning of the alphabet and I was at the end. So like I just got really shy and like didn't have anyone to talk to. So it went from being really good to being really not so great. Yeah,
well, that's true. And sometimes it switches like that. Yeah, like, I mean, that's interesting to point out then too. So for both of y'all, right, your freshman year, of high school would have been the year that COVID hit, or no, wait.
That was mine.
Mine was 8th grade.
Oh, sorry, 8th grade. Yeah, you're part, right. Sorry, yeah.
Like I had just started high school.
So, but I was gonna say I was a freshman in college when that happened, and like I remember it was distinctly. I remember it because that's what I was gonna say. It's like a low season for me because we found out that we weren't coming back to like school for the year in person on the day that we were all leaving for spring break. Or I should say, we found out that we're going to spring break and we're going to take like 2 weeks or whatever it was off the initial end. And we were just like, all right, we'll see you in 2 weeks, man. Enjoy like the extra long spring break. And then it's like, there was literally people who I was like, really honestly, like, somewhat close with that. Like, I mean, as close as you are on like a hall with like 70 other dudes, right? You know, that I saw then that day that I like ended up like never like continuing a friendship with, because like I just lost contact with them, went to spring break, and then, you know, like went home right after that, and we just stayed then. Right. So like that was kind of like, that was a hard season too, of like, oh man, like there's like a lot, like you said, like a lot of those friendships and stuff that kind of went away along the way too. But how did y'all like respond to those seasons, whether they were good or bad? And like, what role did your faith really play then too in like your response to just navigating through those seasons?
Yeah, so I think at that point, so my dad battled cancer up until I was in 10th grade. So it was like a good, like, I don't know how long that is. I don't want to do the math, but it was quite a while. It was like over a few school years. And it was at the point that I didn't lean on my faith really at all during that time, because I didn't want to bother God in my head, because I just thought that it was just too much for him to handle, which obviously is not the truth, but at the time that's what I thought. So I kind of like walked away from my faith for a really long time. Like, I would say primarily through like my freshman and sophomore year.
Yeah.
So I didn't, and I wish I would have, because I think it would have made everything so much easier, because even if I didn't feel comfortable talking to others about it, I would have had God to talk about it with.
Yeah, for sure. Colin, were you going to throw anything?
Yeah, I think like I didn't realize that I was leaning on my faith during that time, but I really was. Like, I think that I was in a lot better shape than some of my friends were, because I had like the Zoom HSMs and stuff in my freshman year to go to and like hang out and see people, like, and I just had like that other element that some people didn't have, that I was close friends with, and I think that I was a lot better off because of that. So.
Sure. Well, and Grace, I think you even kind of hinted at that then too, right? Sometimes when it comes to what role maybe even like our faith or the way that we allow Jesus into those seasons into, sometimes those can be like really hard ones. That's a really hard thing to do sometimes too. So how do you guys find yourself like navigating that? You know, I think I would also agree with that too. With what Grace said at that, like sometimes it feels like, man, God has like a whole lot more to worry about than like what in my brain is like, it's my problem, or it's like, it's my hard season, or like even like, hey, this is like a really awesome season. Like, God doesn't need to hear about that. He has everything else he has to worry about. Or on the other side of it, it's like, oh, like this is a really hard season for me. But like, I mean, there's still people who are like starving. I'm not starving. There's people who are, you know, like in like their lives are in danger. My life's not in danger, right? Like, you know, and you kind of do like that mental wrestle. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like, are you guys kind of like in that same boat then too, where it's like
you make like internal like justifications of like why God like wouldn't need to deal with you.
Yeah.
Like, I do that all the time.
Sure.
Like, and especially during that time, because I can remember being like, oh, well, like, it sounds like my dad had like one of the best kinds of cancer you could have. Like, it was like just barely at stage 1. So like, it was not life threatening at all.
Yeah.
Like, the survival rate was like 95%. So it's like, it's fine. Like, there's people like, I know like kids' parents who are like stage 4 and were like on the verge of like death.
Yeah.
So it just, or like kids themselves who had cancer. So to me, it just didn't feel like it was worth even praying about, which again is not at all the case. Like, God wants you to come to him with everything.
Yeah, totally. We're going to throw something in there too, Colin, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think just like I learned throughout the years that like nothing is too small for God. And like, that's not always apparent, and it doesn't always seem like that's the case. Like Grace was saying, like, you feel like, oh my gosh, there's so many people that are worse off than me. Like, why should I be praying about this? Like, this seems so small. But really, like, God is big enough. He created us all, so he's big enough to solve all of our problems, or do his will with anything that we bring to him. So I think that's just important to remember.
Totally. And you know what's I'm gonna take this kind of a step further than two, right? I think there's also a point in it too where we go from saying, hey, let me justify this, to say, hey, like, this isn't worth God's time, this isn't worth Jesus' time, or whatever, like, and we kind of do that internal wrestle, to, if we keep doing that, I think the further down we go in that track, eventually where we get to in it is somewhere where it's like, oh my word, like this, like, I need God to show up in my life like right now. You know what I mean? Like only him, like he's the only person that could possibly like work this out in my life, and not from, and purely from like, maybe not just from like a physical like need standpoint, but like just from like an emotional, spiritual need. Like I will not get past X, Y, or Z without him. So have you guys had a season like that personally where it's like, listen, you know, Jesus, I need you to be in this situation with me right now to help me get through it?
So I switched schools halfway through high school, which I went from a really small private school. My graduating class was 16. I went to a graduating class of 500.
Oh.
So, and like my school,
just a small jump.
I was gonna say my school has over 2,000 kids. So it was a lot. There's like no good way to prepare you for that, like at all. No. So that was a time, that was my 11th grade year. So my junior year I switched. So literally right like smack in the middle of high school. And like that is a time where I was at a growing point in my faith, but I'm very happy I was, because I heavily leaned on him during that time. And like my friends at church, like even if like that time I was still struggling to make new friends, just because joining halfway through high school is really hard, especially because we were still kind of in like the weird like COVID, like sometimes like randomly we would go home for like a week if like numbers got too high or something. So I was struggling to make friends there, and a lot of like clubs weren't like up and running yet. So I had all of these friends, even though we all went to different schools, I got to see every single Wednesday, or even like I started hanging out with like, that would be the time that I became like best friends with my group from HSM. Like we were hanging out all the time outside of it, because we all leaned on each other during that time. And I think God gave us those relationships so we would lean more on him, but also so we could lean on each other.
Yeah, sure. Colin?
The thing I can think of is when I was, I don't remember how old I was exactly, but it was a pretty long time ago at this point. A guy that was a member of our hunting cabin, he was probably around 22, 23, but I really looked up to him, and he had a lot of the same interests that I did. He actually ended up committing suicide because he had struggled with alcoholism, and he went to rehab, but then so stuff like that. And I think through that, like just having Collide and having, you know, my faith to lean on, and like knowing that God was there for me really helped me a lot, because I didn't realize how much it affected me until like I really look back at it now and like think about like how I don't have him to like look up to anymore or whatever. So
yeah, I was gonna throw out for mine. I have this amazing, awesome cousin. His name is Nolan. And one of the things that was really hard growing up was, so Nolan's, I'm going to get this wrong. I think he's like 12 or going on 13 now. But when he was much younger, like right after he was born, we found out that he had this disease called pretzel syndrome. And up until that point, like everyone in my family is kind of like, I still have both sets of my grandparents. Like my family's just generally like a really healthy. There was no like major health concerns like the whole way through. And then when Nolan came into the picture and like this pretzel syndrome thing came out, and it was like, oh my word, like he's not gonna like have a fully developed brain. He will never be able to like speak like full like English to anyone. He kind of now communicates in like grunts and kind of, you know, like almost like coo sounds. He also doesn't have any ACLs or MCLs in his arms and legs. So like that's kind of the reason why they say pretzel syndrome as the name for it. It's like he can literally like, he's kind of like a contortionist. He can like tie himself up in like a really like weird way just because there's nothing holding him back there. And I just remember like as a kid, like hearing all that for the first time and being like, God, like why would this happen? Right? Like, why would you allow like someone who like I love and care about so much to be like going through all this, right? And I guess I say all that, and I have a share those things to say. It's so evident even like throughout Scripture that there are it's a very common experience to just like kind of get to that point. Psalm 73 talks about it too, just yearning and longing for God to be like just in the midst of that situation with you in whatever you're going through with that too. And again, in each of our situations, it sounds like we're seeing, you know, God kind of just, you know, continue to show up in that way. So I'm curious off of those situations, and I think we kind of hit at it maybe a little bit too. How has God continued to show up through that then as well too? And I'll share mine first because I think I almost kind of gave it away. I forgot to say with Nolan's diagnosis there, I think if I understood it right, the average age that someone with Pressel syndrome normally lived at that point was like 6 years old. And what's really cool was just this, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, we just celebrated, well, I guess that would have been Nolan's 12th birthday then. So the fact that he like doubled that life expectancy and he's still going strong, you know what I mean? Awesome. It's like, and it's cool because the way that he's been able to impact other people and the way that my uncle and my aunt and their whole family have been able to share about Jesus with others that are going through, the similar diagnosis or other families that are, living with and working with special need kids. It's just really cool to see, and really cool to see how God's just continuing to use that for his glory at the end of the day with it too. And to also just provide Nolan an awesome life there then too, even in the midst of it too. But how about for you guys in those situations you shared?
Yeah, I guess kind of going back to my dad.
Right.
And he is, I think 3 years cancer free now.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. But he is honestly healthier than he was before, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And he's doing everything that he would have done before he went through all of this. But also my family came out so much stronger on the other side, because we just learned to appreciate each other while we have it, as bad as that. You never know what's gonna happen, so appreciating what you have in that moment. My perspective on life is so much different after going through all of that.
Sure.
But I love my dad. He is the strongest person I know. There's no words to describe it. Love Tim.
Yeah. Tim Reedy is a legend.
Is a slay.
Yeah. Is a slay. Oh my word. Colin, how about for you, man?
Yeah. I think it just kind of brought us closer to his family.
Oh yeah.
We didn't really necessarily know his mom or his sisters that well, but then through it all, my dad was able to help them with the transferring of the titles of some of his vehicles that he owned and stuff like that. And so God just brought us closer to them and allowed us to help them out through the tough time for them, and it was a tough time for us as well. So.
Yeah. Well, I was to say, I'm assuming then you guys would still at least be in contact with them somewhat regularly. Yep. That's cool, man. Yeah, that's cool. So to kind of close out with it too, obviously we're going to hit those seasons, even if someone's watching this and maybe they're like, oh, my life's been all great right now. Yay. Or it's going to be oh no, my life just feels like it's one bad season after the next. The truth and the good news that we see in scripture then too is that we truly will hit those ebb and flows. There's going to be moments where life turns for the best, and there will be moments where it feels like life's turning for the worst. But I'm curious for y'all, how do you guys stay rooted in Jesus in the midst of all those ebb and flows? How do you guys stay grounded to your faith through that?
Yeah, I think for me, as I said earlier, finding godly relationships in my life.
Yeah.
Because, or friends that will hold me accountable and mentors that will hold me accountable during that time. So again, my life group leaders, truly were the strongest thing I had at that time.
Yeah.
I would have never gotten through it if it weren't for their God-centered relationships helping me through it, finding my own.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah, I would just say looking back on the situations that I felt I wasn't going to get through, but then realizing that God brought me through them and made me a better person on the other side. Just looking back at those and then thinking about how he can do it again. Yeah. Just really helps keep you motivated and helps you realize that nothing's too big for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a huge part of that is just drawing close to him and drawing close to people that will remind you of the good stuff. I have a mentor in my life as well who I'm very grateful for him. He's been able to see me at some of those really great moments, kind of the smaller ones, not the ones I've mentioned, but he's seen some of the better moments I've had in my life and some of the worst moments then too. And what I'm grateful for about that is he's been someone in my life who's been hey, when life gets bad, hey, do you remember how God showed up for you in this way? It's oh, actually, yeah. I do remember that. It's okay, cool. So it's I know it's tough right now. We're here for you, praying for you, but also don't lose all hope because you also see that then too. And then when those good moments hit, it's very much hey, look at where you came from. You remember some of those moments that were not as good? Man, you know what? Thanks so much for reminding me of like God's faithfulness, man. So I think it's a huge part of it too. And then just staying close to Jesus in prayer and getting into the Word too, and allowing those stories that we even read about in the Bible too, because truly there's so many stories in there of like moments like that where people that we're reading about in Scripture go through those highs and low seasons then too, y'all. So staying close to that and allowing that to encourage you through those seasons and too. But good stuff, y'all. Ready for next week here then?
So ready.
All right. We'll see you guys then, and we'll see you guys there too.